Okay, I am waiting for that recording to get started. I think the recording had started. Okay, so from yesterday's call, today means today's agenda, how it will be like there are few topics which has been raised yesterday. So we will discuss around that. There is one point around the scope of training that also I have discussed with Yusuf and Natarajan and I have got a response. And once that is done, then we will get started with today's topic. So I'll just let you know. So today we will be covering around on web methods monitoring. This is IES and MWS, how they work together and how monitoring, what are the out of the box features we have, then what are the different ways of invoking services, and then how debug and error handling happens. And at the end, we will get into the REST services. So few topics like about the scope of training. So when I think Jamil and Kareem, Yusuf and Natarajan might have spoken with you that this is the platform training. It will be at a platform and a developer level where we are introducing the tool, how to use this platform, how we can code on top of it. There are some advanced topics which we can keep a note of it and give it to Yusuf and Natarajan, and they can add it in their respective sessions. So that is what the response has came from Yusuf's side. Hope I'm clear there. So we will stick to the agenda and we will be covering the topics, and it will be at a low level for each and every asset what we are touching it here. So I'll take yesterday's topic. One thing yesterday when I was showing about URL alias or the alias which has been mentioned in the flow service, uh, where I have given like test and I tried to do it in the browser and it did not work. So it is mostly whenever we create a alias here HTTP URL is, it automatically goes and creates a URL alias in my backend. So this test has been created and it takes the whole path. So I have to remove the invoke also. Yesterday I was keeping invoke. That is the reason it was not working. So when I use directly the test, it will invoke our service. So that is how it is. Another thing, that is one way of creating URL alias. Other way, we can directly go to the server and create a URL alias. So here I can give any numbers, any name and the path of the service and where I want to keep this config. So there are by default WM root package comes into picture. So if I can show you this, which I have created. I've just given test add number and given the URL path. I've given WM root. So what happens is it goes and keeps the config file inside this package. This means anytime any deployment we do related to this URL alias, my WM root package will get reloaded. And if you see, the WM root package is the main primary package of the server. What happens is if that gets reloaded, the whole server gets impacted. Every service will get impacted at that time. So we should avoid giving that package. We should be giving our uh, custom package what we have created, and the config should remain there. I will show you where exactly this config gets inside. So when we install our product, it gets installed in the software AG folder. Then under software AG folder, these are the components which have been installed. We are working on integration server. So I will get inside the integration server. We have created an instance called default, and under default, we will have packages where my packages are there. Then if I just get into the package and shoot into the config, and this URL alias config is getting stored here. So I have just shown it because this is, if we are giving any URL aliases, we need to keep it in the right place. So this is one area which yesterday did not work. Another topic, I think, Karim, you have raised around multi-threading and a sequential flow. So what I have done, I have created two services just to get an understanding that is this what you are looking at it. There is a sequential flow when we have to call 3 APIs or target system sequentially. It takes that much time. And if we do it in a multi-threaded manner, how it will improve means it should be concurrently calling my target systems and getting back the responses. So in that, we have discussed two solutions. First solution, which I have told about, writing writing a Java service, or there is an internal service which is available which we can use it, that is do invoke service, which through which we can do this multi-threading logic. And there is the second solution what we have discussed is with the PubSub model using universal messaging. Second solution I will not discuss now. When we are into the messaging topic, we will discuss that at that time. Today we will look into how the sequential and multi-threading will work. So I've created this service, which is a sequential flow. So what I'm doing is I'm just explaining the service so that if you're whatever the logic you are looking at, if it suffice, I think it will be helpful. So what I have taken is the start time. I'm taking the start time, and then I've created a map where I just created one variable called cust ID, but I am passing a number into it. Let's say 3000. Then I am calling a target server, target API, which is get name from DB. If I just open this get name from DB, it takes the input, whatever is in the pipeline, and I do whatever number is coming, like 3000. That millisecond, I will wait. I will get into a sleep mode, and then after that sleep, I will map a value and give the response of value back to the main service. So in sequential flow, what will happen? First service will be called. It will wait for 3000 milliseconds, like that is 3 seconds. Then response will come back. Second service will wait for 5000 milliseconds. This is the cust ID where 5000 is written. Then I will call the second target service. Then third one I have mapped as 8000 milliseconds and call the third target API. Once all the responses, means here we are sequentially doing it, all the responses are coming back, and then we are collating all the responses, then calculating the how much time this service has taken. So this is the time of end time, and then we are subtracting and getting the actual time the service has taken it. So if you see 3 times 3 calls has been made, that is first call 3000 milliseconds, second call 5000, and third 8000. This whole service will take around 16,000 milliseconds time to execute this service. So if I run this service, you have to wait for that, I think 16 seconds, and then the response will come back. So this is the response. The service has taken that 16,000. There is 0.1 millisecond, which is the other services which has taken it. And that is the overall time taken by this service. This is the sequential processing. Now, if we want to do a multi-threading kind of thing, so there is again, I've written the same logic, like start time has been captured. Then I have a service, I mean, same map step where 3000 milliseconds is the time given, but here we are calling thread invoke. So what it does is it takes the input, which target API I have to call, and then doesn't wait for the response. It just assign whatever the service thread, we capture that thread here. Same way, I do the second mapping, 5000 seconds, and call the service. Again, it doesn't wait for the response. We capture it back. Another thing I will just let you know, I have done one by one. This is these mappings. This can be done using a loop statement, so we don't have to intentionally. I have done it 3 times just to showcase what the use case is. But this can be under a loop where we don't have to write down these many line of codes. So third mapping, that is 8000 milliseconds, and the do thread invoke call, which we have done. And then we are collating every response from each thread. So that is the thread which we are passing, and output pipeline has been collected. All the response has been received, and then we are calculating the how much time it is taking it. One thing, if you see, I have mentioned 3 different times: 3000, 5000, 8000. So the overall time it will take is 8000 milliseconds, because the maximum of one of the API call, that much time it has to wait for that response and come out. Here it is a sleep time. That is the reason it will be exactly 8000.
بس ده عامل كود.
Sorry.
Sorry, yes, it's the same scenario I'm expecting. I need to see what exactly how you get the code here. How you, what is this thread result, and how to get the result from invoked service with the thread. Okay, you can.
Yep. So I am just running it to showcase that is the exact time, how much time it will take it, and that is the 8009 milliseconds which has taken. So I thought this is the scenario which you were discussing yesterday. So this is one of the solution where we can use our do thread invoke API. That is a service.doThread invoke API we use, where we pass the pipeline, receive the output pipeline, and the logic how to merge, and those that we have to write it. Means internally that is the developer's responsibility to write how to merge these responses and move forward. This is one solution, and when messaging, we will cover it. At the messaging scenario, we will look into how PubSub model can be used, where publish and wait and send reply can be used. Okay.
So the demonstrated solution, it is built in PubSub or custom code Java?
That is our normal send and reply. So I'll just show you. So if it is native way of publishing, if I am using it, I will do a publish and wait. So what it does is the moment request comes in, I'll publish the document into a topic and wait for the responses. And that many conditions I will put it like I have to wait for these many responses, then only proceed further. From each subscription service, what I have written, another flow service where actual target service, which I have called it, the moment they get the response back, they will do a reply. So reply to this publish and wait. And then
Okay, so this distribution, it is based on PubSub on the messaging, right?
correct.
Okay, okay, this is a good solution. And kindly, can you share this sample code with us? The all
Sure.
resources related to the training we need to share it with us.
Yep. Or I can ask Natarajan to share this code. Mostly he should be having it because this comes under PS utilities, do thread invoke. So this sample code might not be there. I will share with him and he can share with you.
I appreciate this. Thank you.
Yep. So this is one area I think from yesterday's topic. Another area which I want to cover it is the global variables. So whenever we write a code and there are few variables at a server level, let's say my target system, SAP system is there. That is a common host which will be used across the services. And it changes across our environment. There will be a dev SAP environment, there will be a test SAP environment, and there will be a prod test environment. So what we can do is we can define those variables in our global variable area, where we can just go and put it as a key value pair kind of thing. If there is a username password, we can make it as a is password, then password will not be visible to us. Let's say there is a JDBC password. So this will not be visible to anyone, and admin can just keep this here and we can use this variable. So how to use this variable? If I get into my service, what we have built yesterday, my first service. So I use the same map, and if I come back, so what I have done, there is a in parameter, whatever one variable I have taken it. I just want to use this. So percentile, whatever variable name I have defined in global variable, I have used it under the percentile. One thing which we need to check is this checkbox, perform global variable substitution. If we do that, then this will be taken at runtime. Whenever I execute this service, whatever value I give it here, A, B, C, it will get converted as training host. So that is the value it will take it from the global variable.
Okay, so these global variables, it need to restart service to reflect inside the all service or running services, or it is if I need to adding or changing or modifying the variables, it's need any kind of restarting of the service, resetting, caching, something like this activity inside the server.
No, so that means if you want to change the value.
Yeah. One of them changing its value, other thing adding additional variable. It automatically picked up from the server, or I need to reset the server, restart the server.
So if I do, no restart is needed. It is directly affected.
Okay.
And
or
when you are adding also, there is no restart needed. Only thing when you are adding it, I think that might not have been used unless you touch the flow service. Means if you don't touch this code, no restart is needed. The moment if I touch it, change anything in my code, then also restart is not needed. Only save of code, what we have to do it.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the out of the box configuration thing has been given. Only means I will just give you the pros and cons. So when we are using global variable, if you see, this is at a server level. So here there is no distinction that where this global variable is getting used, means which package. It can be used in any service, anywhere you can use it. So any changes here, it will impact the whole server. And whenever you are changing, let's say a value, there is a change of a value happened, means this is a host name is very wrong example, but let's say number of retries. I want to change it only for a specific server service. Then either I have to have a multiple variables uh, and then change it, or if it is one, then it will impact all my services. So these are not package specific configurations. So for package specific means we have to write, we can put a property file inside our config folder inside the packages config folder and then retrieve values and work on that if we want to make package specific variables. And there are multiple different kinds of solutions. We can build it on top of it to have a very package specific configurations so that it remains with the life cycle of the package. It doesn't impact other services. So that is one area. Another thing, resources. So I just wanted to show this resources just to give an idea, like whenever we are having a services and we are running those services, it takes threads. And by default, the maximum thread is 75 threads has been given to integration server. Whenever we are increasing the memory, we can increase this number of threads. So mostly in production, we get up to 2000, 3000 threads. And when in cluster, two environments are in cluster, it becomes double the number. So those threads can be configured here. And we can see that how many threads getting used and how many threads are there and when to alert those all settings are available here. So that is one area. Another is extended settings. This is another set of configurations which is provided by the integration server itself, where we can set some values at the server level. Let's say I have multiple HTTP calls going outside, and few developers have put a timeout and few developers have not put a timeout variable. And what will happen is where there is no timeout, it will go and wait for unlimited time. And those many threads, slowly it will consume all the threads of the IS servers and it will bring the server down. So at server level, we can set timeouts. So like this. This is the property provided by the integration server itself, where we can set a global value to it. So whatever value we will put it here. If there is no timeout been mentioned, this value get applied to those calls, and it will close the thread and send out the timeout exception. So there are a lot of these kind of properties are available. So based on whatever one or two, wherever it will come in, I'll start showing those properties which are important for a developer to look upon. Okay, so these are the things which from the yesterday's discussions. Any other thing from yesterday's topic which we need to look into it?
No, thank you. You can proceed, yes.
Sure. So just to give you how the flow is going, how our training session. So yesterday we have learned about flow surfaces, how to write code, how to implement logic into it, different types of if-else statement, for loop, branching statements that we have learned. Then we will get into how to test these services, what is the debugging mechanism, and then into monitoring, what are the out-of-box monitoring capabilities are available with the integration server, and at the end, what are the different ways we can invoke this service, whatever we have written. Yeah. Yep. So now we will go through Web Methods Monitor. So Web Methods Monitor is another capability in the integration server, which is being used to connect, means in a infrastructure way, it is to connect my integration server to my Web Method server, where we any transactions or anything which is happening in integration server will be that data can be seen in my Web Methods server via this Web Methods capability or the package. So we will have an overview of Web Methods Monitor, understand the integration server's audit logging framework, what we have, and how to enable auditing for IS services, how to monitor those IS services, and how resubmit works out. So Web Methods Monitor. So it contains of two logical installation or product capability. So where two products are being impacted when Web Methods Monitor comes into picture. There is one Web Methods Monitor package which gets installed in our integration server. And another package which is Monitor User Interface which gets installed in our My Web Method server. So both of them, once it is installed, then only the whole Web Methods Monitor operation or the capability is enabled. If even one of them is missing, it will not get enabled. I will just show you that where exactly we need to look things. So when we do the installation, anybody has tried how to install Software AG products? So there is, just to give a background around it, we have an installer. We run that installer and then connect to our Software AG repository, from where we can create image, whatever products or license we have. We can take those image, create it, or directly install from that repository. When we select which version, based on that, it shows what all the different capability we can install it. And if you select it, and it will install. So it will give you a list. When that list comes up, it will also give you monitor, WM monitor as one of the capability. So if you select that, it will come and install a WM monitor package in our IS server. So once that is installed, if I go to its home page, it asks for the connecting configuration to connect to my Web Method server. So where we can provide the host name, port, what is the protocol, how we want to connect it, what is the username, credentials. Then resubmit capability, I want to enable it. And there are few roles which it comes in. Means these roles, what it is mentioned is, if I am going to do a user management through MWS, so I will not create any users in my integration server. My MWS should act as a central user configuration. Then these roles come into picture. So I will just use those roles, add users there, and it will start getting reflected in all my IS servers, whatever is available. So this is where the WM Monitor configurations are available in integration server. Now, if I go to my web method server, so once you get inside this, you click on about. So we see that there is a monitor capability has been installed here. So this version and build date, which will come. So there are other products also being installed in MWS like trading networks, active transfer, ESB administration. So these are also capability which we install on top of our MWS if we want to monitor those products also. So this is how the installation looks like. So once this capability is enabled, both the connectivity is being done. So there are different ways we can send data to each. So from integration server, any services where we have enabled auditing, it will send those data. If we have business processes, we have built it. If we have enabled auditing, that also will send data. There is another product. If there is a BPM optimized for process, if we have enabled that, that also will send the data to the MWS. Sending data to MWS, I will explain it in later part where exactly the data goes. So once data has been, so this is what I was mentioning about any web methods executed process, any BPM processes are available in my integration server. If those are executed by the process engine, those data will go and we can monitor it via MWS. Same way, if we have written multiple service and there is an orchestration in the service level itself, those data will go, and our actual service where we configure auditing, that data will go. Once it gets inside the monitoring, we will have capabilities of resubmit. We can edit the data. We can trace, track, do those. So once data is there, and then we also have a capability of archiving this data or deleting this data. So any business data, if there is a requirement, regulatory requirement to keep this data for these many days, so we can keep it and then we can archive or delete it. So the overall framework. So I will first start with logging. So there is a logging and auditing. So two different thing it is. Logging means when we are writing a log into a file or a database uh, where there are some custom messages which we want to do it. That is there, and any events which is being getting generated in the IS servers, those are getting logged. So that is in our logging, which will take care of it. If there is anything related to the pipeline or the actual business data, if I want to audit those, that is where the auditing comes, where I am working with the actual business data and we want to audit that. So that is the auditing area. So logging, I will show you in the server itself. So in integration server, this admin UI, once it comes, there is a log section. You can come. So there are these many different types of loggers are available. So there is a service logger, error logger, integration messaging, client logger. So these are the loggers available. So here we get the events from each of the components and we log it. And there are, yesterday I have shown you like debug log, trace log, those are inbuilt public services where we can send logging data through those APIs to these logs. So when we are configuring this, so there are multiple options, like I can make it as a synchronous. Synchronous means at any point of time, anything happens, like debug log I have called it, it synchronously goes to the file, write it and come back. So it is a sync, unless it has written, it will not come back and my service will not move forward. I can save it in database or file. So if, let's say, if I want to change things, so from the inbuilt out of the box logging mechanism, I can enable, disable the log. I can make it a synchronous and asynchronous. So when we are make it as asynchronous, that means it will go via our messaging layer. So messaging layer is needed, where there will be a transient queue will be created, and it will be published there, and later it will be written to the file or database, whatever we have configured below. And queue size we can make it. Queue provider is also internal and universal messaging. Internal means it will use our normal file system. It will create a Derby means a local queue, and from there it will use it. If anything happens to that server, those messages will be lost. If that is crashed or anything, it will not. So via universal messaging, universal messaging will take care of failover based on its configuration, clustering configuration of active-active or active-passive. It will take care of it. But when we configure as internal, even if my IS server is in cluster, this is very localized to this instance. So that is how it has been there. So multiple means I can make it synchronous, asynchronous, database or file. Only one logger I cannot make it as database, that is the server log. The server log is the important feature where we can enable the logging based on our need. So currently it is at info level. I can make it, like if I change it, I can make only fatal errors to be captured. Only at error level it should capture. No other uh, levels should be captured. In production, mostly we configure fatal or error. Debug trace when there is a need or we have to debug, means finding a root cause of an issue, we get into debug and trace. And for test or development environment, we keep it at info so that any developer who is writing it services and logic, he can use debug log to see how its coding is being progressed. Then this is at a server level. Then we can get a little bit more deeper, like only at connection level, if I want to increase the logging and view it. So that also we can do it only at SSL level, caching level. If I want to increase it, or any adapter level, if I want to increase the log, I can increase it. Others remains at the info level or error at fatal level. So this is the out of the box logging framework which comes in. This doesn't take care of business data. So here, only if a programmer has used debug log in his coding, which is not the best practice. We should not have debug logs in our code. It is only while developing we use that. That will be logged in our server log. Otherwise, nothing will come here. Which I have shown it, and also I will show you. These are the places where we see the logs. So this is the server log, same way the error log. It is retrieving the data from the database. As you can see that error log has been configured to database. Same way messaging if there are anything services which we have, I have enabled this auditing here, so it is being shown here. Same way, sessions, how many sessions being used. The session logger will capture all the sessions here. Now coming back to auditing. So in auditing, what happens is we push the data to a audit database. So for IS services, or IS, when I'm mentioning it is integration server, any services or flow service written inside the integration server, when we enable the audit capability, it will push the data to audit DB. And there is, whenever we enable it in the BPM processes, it pushed the data to BPM DB. I'll just show that configuration also. So these are the databases. So IS core audit, and there is a process audit. So best practice around this when we configure. So we have a runtime environment, this integration server. Here, if you see that same database has been configured for my runtime as well as for my auditing. That means that if there are multiple messages or a huge amount of messages are coming and getting audited, it will fill the database and my server runtime will get impacted. So mostly what we do is we segregate this two database. We keep IS internal separately from our IS core audit, so that transactions and audit data should be handled separately. So this is easy. Just create a new connection here and assign it to that IS core audit to that database. It will start pushing the data there. And another thing, when let's say this is a single instance of IS server or integration server, if I have multiple integration servers which are in cluster, so every instance in the cluster has to point to the same databases, be it IS internal or be it IS core audit. If it is IS internal, every IS internal from every instance should point to the same database, and same way for core audit into the same database. Why that is like if my all the instances are working and requests are coming to every instance, they should start auditing the data into a single central place, so that whenever we configure our MWS, it looks to the same database, reads it, show it there, and whenever we try to resubmit, if my one of the instances is down, it can reprocess that message in any other instance which is available in the cluster. So that is also when we do clustering, we point to the same database. And as I have mentioned, when we are using in the logger asynchronous, it goes via transient queue. When it is synchronous, it goes directly right into the file or DB. And it means the service will wait for that synchronization to happen.
So can I interrupt you before moving from this point?
Sure.
Regarding this logs related to integration server. Now we have IS internal or IS core audit. Okay, IS internal. This is for runtime for the server itself, right?
Yeah. So IS internal contains only the metadata. So all the
metadata of the integration of the configuration of the servers.
Correct.
Okay. And it shouldn't be increased by the time the only audit and archived data, it will be which what is it should be increased maybe according to a set of logs activity on the server, take load or performance test activity. Maybe we facing problem with the size of the database, right? So we need to separate the
Correct.
IS core audit and the
IS sector.
IS. Both of them should be separated.
Processes, if you have processes, process engine and process audit to be separated.
What you mean by
So,
process
process,
engineering?
okay, means in integration server, multiple capabilities we can run. So from
You
a
mean the
software
process which it is from the BPM?
BPM, correct.
Yeah, no, okay, no problem. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. So same way like TN is their trading networks. So these are the multiple different capability which we have. So for everything, it has been given a database. So process engine also, process engine will contain the
Okay.
definition of the processes. Process audit will contain the instances, runtime instances of processes.
Purging activity and clearing activity related to this logs databases. It is configured to be from here, should be from here.
Yes.
Yani it should be limited to a set of size to not increase data. I will keep only for last 7 days, last 1 month. And is there any alert configuration related to this? Because she see the configuration. There is no related any information about this alerts or limiting or.
Correct. So alerts related to database, like this size has been reached, something needs to be done. That has to come from database side.
Okay.
But archiving and how many days of data needs to be done, that has to be done from integration server side. So there are this. Yep. So this WM monitor package, that capability. So there are services being available, like server archive. This will run on process IS core audit. So I'm just running it to show you the input parameters, what it takes. So it is till which date you want to delete it, or number of days you want to keep the data. So both are optional fields. So there is a small square on top of it, which tells that it is an optional field. Anyone, I can mention it. I can mention keep only 7 days of data. Apart from that, just archive.
This is a configuration or a just runtime action related to start cleaning the data. It's a
Yeah,
manual
so
activity. You mean? I mean.
no, it can be automated. I will explain this. This is archive and delete, which
Okay.
you can do it. And then I have schedule. So I can create a schedule task. Let's say archive, and then give that exact namespace of that server archive service, and I can assign the inputs there. Let me do that.
Okay, I get the point. This is maybe more administration, right?
Correct. So
Okay,
yes.
I just
So
I just noticed because the current setting it is only one database, so I just get confirm on this.
correct. So one
Okay.
thing which in production means, or in the normal solutioning, what
Yeah.
we look for, we don't keep these schedulers in the same runtime where my actual business data is running. So what we do is we assign a server from where we can run the schedulers. Like you go run, because when it is purging or archiving is happening, it will also take the resources.
Okay.
So that the server which is doing this, it should be separated out. That is
Okay.
one way of doing it. Another way, there are store procedures being provided by the product, where we can configure cron jobs or database tasks
Okay.
that can run directly those store procedures, and it can do it from the backend, and our runtime will not get
Great.
affected.
Okay.
So for that reason itself, these services, archiving services, is not provided in the my web method server, because the moment if I configure anything, it will come and run into my running IS server, and it will take out the whole resources and it will impact the business. So it has given in a different way, store procedure way or scheduler way, run it based on, separate this uh, logic, means runtime should be separate and maintenance activity should be separate. So this is, means clustering also you understood, like it has gone to the same database. Every integration server is pushing towards the same database, and every maintenance activity run gets executed to the same database. Same database of IS core audit and a separate for IS internal. I'm just mentioning in between what is the best practices, so that if you face any issues, you will get to know why we are getting into these kind of issues. There is another setting which we do. Oh, it is to a scenario. I will just explain. So whenever we do clustering of multiple IS servers, we first have configured our JDBC pools to point to the same database. Then we create remote alias for all the servers what are there in our cluster. So once we create this, what happens is whenever resubmit is being done from a centralized my web method server, it goes and look for a up and running integration server instance which is available in the cluster, and look for that remote server connection and does that resubmit. So I can resubmit any service, whatever service data from my web method server. So that is the importance of remote servers configuration, what we do. And just to show you also, it has, like, while creating any remote server, we just give a alias name, host and IP, port, username, and we can connect to any other server. So just I want to create, let's say, this server remote alias. Yes. And we can also tell how many threads we want to keep it alive. So default is 5. I can give a customized number also and save the settings, and it will get added here. I can test that connection. It is, means it is in this server. It is from local. I'm connecting to the same server. In same way, we can connect to multiple other instances, and this will be used when we are using our resubmit. Now enabling auditing and monitoring of the services. So this is what we have seen it yesterday, where in every service we have the audit property, where we can enable the auditing, log on when to log the uh, means pipeline, send it to the database, when it should be error only or success or always, then include pipeline properties, what we can do it. So this is just a refresher from yesterday's thing. I'll take this service. So when top level service means this is the first service which has been called via my HTTP call or web service call or REST call. So then only do the auditing. If it is a service which has been called as a sub service or a child service, then auditing will not happen. Never is never, always is. Whatever stage that service is, it will be used. Be it a child service or a top level service, it will enable the auditing. Log on tells you when to audit, only when error happens, or it is error success or error success start. And include pipeline always or when error only or never. So these are this is this which we have seen it yesterday also. So I can show you once. Let's say if I run this up. So I've ran it just before this meeting. So this is at 4/7. Now it is 5 p.m. I mean, this is the GMT timing. So based on that, I will run now. Sorry, I have not given any parameters. This has ran. I go here. So a failed condition has also been shown here and a completed. To view the details, it will show you what context ID this has, which user has used it. I'll show you. Okay, this one, another property. The log fields. So these are log fields means I can select whichever I want to log it. So it is log fields means I can see it in my UI. So I have just logged the results field. So that is the reason I am seeing this value here. So logged. If I a whole pipeline, you should not. We should not be logging it because anyway, if I want to see the pipeline, I can come here, see what is there as an input request which came to this service. So that is under my web method server services. When you click, this is the monitoring UI, which is get enabled. So where we can see the service auditing. And for all the servers from which server ID it has been executed, it will show those server IDs also. This is the normal thing which I have explained. So there are search capabilities. Any keyword, if I want to use it, and based on that, if I want to search, I'm just searching. This will search on the service name. So wherever this context ID is some, so it has taken that. There are advanced features where I can search only by failed. Remove this. Only the failed one it will give you. Another search, if I the log field, log field contains 8. So these are the places where my logged field has a value called means has a value 8, so it has searched those. So in log field also, whatever name here we have used, I can give a alias to it. So it can be result, I can give any name and then search based on that. So this is another property in the service which we can mention it. Whatever we are logging, give a alias, a user friendly name to it so that we can search it in the database, in my monitoring UI. Another thing which we have, I'll show you, is the service. This is set custom context ID. So when I enable this, I have given a parameter like whatever this is adding, put a custom name to it and that parameter here so that whenever we see that UI, it is easily readable. Or let's say you have multiple order related or employee related data is coming in. You set this custom ID like order ID or employee ID so that what will happen if I run this now. So this is the sum got added. Clear this block fields. So context ID will be visible here. So be it a order ID or employee ID. So that will be easy that whenever any request has come and we want to search for it, I just come here, put the context ID. This is what I want to search here. I will get to that because there will be huge number of data and this capability will be used easily for this order ID, what has happened. So I will just go there, see the details, what has happened here and see that, let's see. Okay, this, if I find it like, no, this value needs to be changed. I give it something 10. Okay. Save and do a resubmit. So this has been resubmitted. If I go back, the server, the actual service which has ran first time, that status has changed to resubmitted because we have edited that pipeline and submitted it again. And another instance of that service has got created where I have given a value 10 and some became 12 and it came up here. So once I have resubmitted it, it has gone, re-executed that service, came back, and I can see the details here and see that output result has changed and pipeline should have also changed to the newer values. So hope you understand that whenever I resubmit the service, that service instance will get into a status called resubmitted. Another new instance will get created, which will have the normal status like failed, completed, whatever it is. So this is a very good feature which comes out of the box, where we can get the audit data, business data. If there is any problem, we can change it and resubmit it. But again, this is it has to be controlled way. This needs to be done. So I've showed you the search capability of our audit framework, how editing and resubmit works, how re-execute of the service happens. I have also showed, like, in the log fields where we can put aliases and we can select what data to be logged instead of logging all the data. So there is a good example here of, like, shipment notice, only order ID, sender ID, and receiver ID needs to be logged, and those only I will be viewing it in my web methods monitoring UI. And this data, whatever you're seeing it, it is coming from all the cluster instances of IS. If I have 10 instances running, every data is coming here and you are able to view it at a single place. I have also shown how, with the log field, how to view the data or how to search the data. Context ID, this is the pub.flow set custom context ID. We can set this, we can directly view in our auditing UI, so that it is easy to identify which data we need to look into. So just the summary here, that log field custom context ID are the good way of adding a business context to the auditing. Logged fields are means when we select it, it is good. Otherwise, it is a performance intensive service. So we need to be careful enough while choosing how many fields we want to log it. In context ID, we can put a static value as well as a dynamic value programmatically. So in a program, I can just assign whatever order ID, shipment ID, those things are coming, and I can assign it. Resubmitting of pipeline also we have gone through. One normal discussion comes up in every solutioning when we do it. Is this the mandatory thing which needs to be used in our development? So this is from Software AG. It is not told us, it is not a mandatory thing which we need to do it. It is just the out of box functionality given by the integration server. If we don't have any other auditing or logging mechanism, we can use this. But nowadays there are a lot of other mechanism which is a enterprise-wide auditing mechanism will be there, where we have to send this data to a file, and through FileBeats or Logstash, we have to send the data to the data lake kind of thing. So those requirements also comes into picture, where the enterprise, based on the enterprise need, we can also configure those. So this is only when there is nothing available, we can use it. But enterprise way of logging auditing, if it is available, it is best to means use those features.
So about this enterprise solutions or enterprise configuration related to the data lake or saving this logs, this is out of the box configuration in the product, or we need to make this our custom implementation and flows, so we can save this data to this external logging system. So
So it will be a custom solution or a framework needs to be built on top of this platform. So platform doesn't provide any integration with what kind of logging or auditing will be there. So another way means I will just take another example of App Dynamics or Dynatrace kind of monitoring tools. So there we have a inbuilt connectivity mechanism. So what they do is they provide some jar files which we can configure in our uh, wrapper configuration of integration server. So at runtime, they can capture the data and show it in their monitoring. So it is like an interception way. So they intercept the any transaction or request, capture it, put it into their monitoring tool and show that in their UI. So that connectivities are there. But when it comes to Logstash kind of thing, we only go and write mechanism, write to file, write log. Those utilities has been given to write to a file. But after that, file beat or those Logstash has to be custom code has to be written. Hope I have answered that part.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. So this is again about the status, how original and new instance. So original instance always be shown as resubmitted because we have touched that, edited that pipeline. So that current status changes and new instance will remain new. Only thing I think there is a context ID, means if you view that the original service has a context ID and the same context ID will become my parent context ID in the new service which has been called. So any resubmission has happened based on this context ID and parent context ID, we can relate which two are those services. So mostly in production or when we are finding some root cause analysis is going on and we want to find out. So this is the relationship which we use it to find out these are the things which has happened in production. From every topic means these are the guides which are available, the documents which are available in documents.softwareag.com to get more detail into things. Mostly it will cover almost these topics, but in a detailed manner it will be there. Just give me a minute, I will have water. So now next topic is around service. So right now we have built the service. Now what are the ways we can invoke our services? So there is in this chapter we will see that how send receive data in integration server happens. How to handle XML files. That is what all built-in services which we have to handle XML documents. So in integration server, there are multiple ways we can invoke our services. So first is through ports. Ports means these are the different protocols which we have like HTTP or HTTPS, FTP, email, file polling, web service and REST services. Web service and REST service are also exposed via our HTTP ports, HTTP or HTTPS ports. So these are the different ways a request can come inside our integration server. There are Another way which I have shown is schedulers. Schedulers I can configure it where it can also invoke my services. Just to show. So till now, there are no questions. Or if there are anything, just let me know in between. Because I'm not able to see if anybody has raised the hands or anything. So in my admin UI of integration server, so there is under servers, ports are there. So this is the incoming channel what we created. Till now, whatever we have built is inside integration server. Now we want to expose it. So once we have installed the server, we provide a default primary port that is 5555 or anything which we can give it. So that will act as a primary port for the server. We have a access mode, which I will just choose the another normal. Yeah. So we can allow by default, or I can restrict the incoming messages. So here I will say that only these services should be accessed, or only or I will put it deny by default, but I will give a list of services, allow list to access. I will just add a port HTTP. That's a 6666. This is just I'm giving a test alias, but it has to have logical name here. Then backlog and keep live amount timeout. So this is backlog means if there is 200 is the backlog and my server threads are 75. So let's say at the same time 500 request has came. So what will happen is 75 will get into processing. So 75 threads has been consumed and right now server doesn't have any more threads. So 75 is getting processes. Now remaining 425 messages. What will happen is 200 will get into backlog. So it will keep them in a backlog so that whenever that 75 completes, it will take those 200 and proceed. Beyond backlog, whatever is there, it will send out the message stating that server not available. And this 200 messages also, after 75 threads, it will only wait for 20,000. That is the 20-second, 20,000 milliseconds. It is 20 seconds. It will wait for that. And then if we don't get any more thread back from the server, it will also time out. Or within 20 seconds, if another 75 is released, it will start processing the next level. Next messages. Then client authentication means if I want to access this port, how I should be accessing it. So here I can tell that username password, or I can have a Kerberos setup or a digest. I can put any mechanism. This is the certificates what we configured or a Kerberos mechanism what we can configure it here. So let's say I save it. So this 66 port got enabled. So by default it is deny by default. So any request coming to this is not allowed. Nothing is allowed except these are the services which are exception for it. So I can tell that only any request coming for this thing will be allowed. All other requests are denied. So this is how we control one aspect of security. Another thing is IP address. Here also I can make it as deny by default and allow only specific IPs. Specific IPs means only a request coming from a specific source IP, a range, then allow that. Otherwise, deny other every other request. That is, this is a way where certificates or IP restrictions, which we can control it. And this is available for all different kinds of ports, whatever we have. So we have these many entry points. So HTTP, HTTPS are means self-explanatory. FTP, FTPS are self. Email, like we can connect to a POP3 email server, and any request coming from there, we can consume that. We can call a service from this. Same way, FTP is connecting to a file system, and just, so it will ask you which bind address. So here we will give a file path where we are connecting it and the credentials related to it. WebSocket is self-explanatory. The last two, enterprise gateway server and internal server. So this is the concept which will come, I think, when API gateway is getting installed in your organization. So earlier days, so we had two this IS server can be kept in two places. One is in DMZ layer, another one is green zone. So it is like DMZ is the beyond the green zone firewall, but inside the data center, and green zone is the totally secured internal space or network area. So to have a connectivity between those two, let me try to.
Before going to the connection between the two integration servers, exposing FTPS through the integration server, that mean he can control the file using the FTPS protocol, and this URL I can share with the any third-party tool using SFTP to
Yes.
read and write the file from the folder I already pointing to this URL,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So
So
how, and it is will apply also with the same authentication username and password certificate or whatever Kubernetes,
correct.
sorry, Kerberos. It
Yes.
will be
So
the same apply security model in this port, right?
yes. Yes. So it has all the features. So only I will just tell you. So this is a feature by integration server. The
Okay.
same feature you will get it with MFT. So another product, I think Active
Yeah.
Transfer, you will have it.
Yes. So I get confused here. So why is this here? And this is the purpose actually, or that it will listen to this folder to maybe one source of like adapter to configure adapter related to this destination. If there is any activity, it will trigger a flow or.
Yeah. So that is the reason I was coming to that external and internal port. So
Okay.
what happens is we have two layers, DMZ layer and a green zone layer. Let me take just a plain slide. Just give and our draw this here. So this is outside world. So outside world, when it connects, it comes via a firewall into the enterprise, which first enter into DMZ layer. So most of our uh, load balancers, API gateway uh, things are available here, or enterprise gateway. So all gateways stays in my DMZ layer. Once that request has came here, then green zone go and pull the request from DMZ layer. So there is no direct punching of firewall. This is the internal firewall. So there will never be a means this kind of the shape. This kind of flow will never exist. So directly you punch the firewall and bring the data here, it will not happen. So what happens is here it will be a reverse invoke. Means green zone should go to DMZ layer, pull the data, process it, and gives it back, and so that it responded back to the outer world. So that means my inner firewall is always protected. So that is the whole infra concept where DMZ and green zone is being defined. Now, how the product, any product which comes here, will get implemented. So IS servers is available in my green zone. That means it is not exposed to outside world. So for that, any ports, whatever I am enabling it here, nobody can access from outside. It is good for any internal consumption. So any application which is inside the same data center or same security network, they can use it. Same way for all the ports I have explained, like HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, email, all are good for internal green zone layer. The moment when we are getting here, so there is a concept of enterprise gateway or now API gateway standard edition in web methods, our API management portfolio. So we install that product here. So what happens is it takes the request from the outside world. We configure a reverse invoke ports. So that means green zone will go, pull the data, bring it back, process it, and do it. So those are these two port, enterprise gateway server and the internal server. So in green zone, we configure the enterprise gateway server, and in enterprise gateway, we configure internal server. Both the products runs on top of IS. So that is the reason both are shown here. Only when we change the license, it becomes a different product. Same way in active transfer, MFT and active. So it has a component enterprise active transfer gateway and active transfer server. Active transfer gateway stays in the DMZ layer and active transfer server gets installed in the green zone. So to bring that connectivity, again, it uses the reverse invoke and that connectivity brings in. That is the MFT gives that feature. So with that external exposing of your ports or anything is been enabled. But with the FTPS connection ports, what I'm showing it right now, it will not be useful when we are exposing outside. So that is the reason that other product, MFT product, has came in. And same way for integration server, for same reason we have API gateway. All the security related policy means in API gateway also we have a two components. It's a standard edition and a enterprise edition. Standard edition goes into the DMZ layer where we do all the threat protection, with SQL injection, virus attack, those kind of thing, which will be handled there. And with reverse invoke, we connect either to API Gateway Enterprise Edition or directly we can connect to our integration server.
So, Mr. Carr, when we have an external
Sorry, I think you went on mute.
Sorry, Mr. Carr. I have a question regarding the consumer, external consumer. When we
Yes.
have external, let's say, government entity want to consume our APIs, so
Correct.
it will be implemented. It will hit the API management gateway.
Correct.
Then it will be invoked by reversely by the green IS, right? Green area.
Correct. So it depends. So let's say there are two scenarios. I will take it. One is a pass-through kind of thing, where you have a application which is exposing an API. Let's say student info, get student info, and it has all the features. Means whatever information, REST way of implementation, everything they have done it, and whatever input it needs, your external party is also ready to give that request, same format. So in this scenario, what will happen is your external party will call the API gateway. API gateway can directly connect to the target system. It doesn't have to go through, it is not mandatory to go through the ESB or integration layer. Oh, I've made it clear. So only reason when we bring in integration server is, let's say both party doesn't agree to go through the same contract, or they don't want to follow the same protocol, or they don't want to have the security mechanism same there. So what we do is we expose the API via API gateway. Third party entity will consume that. API gateway will take care of the security mechanism, what is needed. Then it sends to our integration server, do whatever transformation we want to do. Enrichment of data, add header, add multiple things, convert it to the application friendly message format. And then from there, we can go to the target application, get the response and send it back. So mostly ESB is needed when there are complex mapping, transformation things are coming up, or there are multiple calls we have to do it internally. There are a lot of combination of APIs we have to call it and then form a message and send it back. So those are the things which we then ESB, green zone ESB will come into picture.
Okay, it's clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Kerr.
Yes.
Regarding the ports inside the integration server and the advanced or the gateway and the communication between both in the DMZ and the green zone, why, in what criteria this port is shown? I saw two ports, which it is internal server integration and server, and can you share your screen again? Because
Yeah.
I don't have this information inside my servers. Yes, this is enterprise gateway server and internal server. In why you are it's showing here, but in my configuration is not showing in my integration server, and the MSR is not showing in gateway. It's not showing. Depend on what?
What are only enterprise gateway and internal server not showing, or a lot of other
Not
things
showing.
are
No, it's not showing. I saw all of them. Yes, until HTTPS diagnostic, but the other it is not showing. This is the last two ports is not showing in my configuration.
Okay, only the last two, it is the enterprise gateway configurations. So you might be having, do you have the MSR version installed? So there
I
is a
have
license file.
no. I
and-
I have a license. I'm checking the in installed in the MOE. The current configuration in MOE in staging.
Okay,
It
so
doesn't have this setting.
okay, then
In
only
MSR setting, in
yeah, this is
integration gateway, in API, it is not showing anything.
okay. It might be because of the MSR license. So mostly what license or the installation, what I am here it is being used is the on-prem full version. So it has every capability on this integration server. So in your,
Again, but this one, if it is not part of the current setting, it will break the security or the recommendation we requested from the
no, it
for
will
the
not.
installation.
No, it will not
So
have it.
how the let me check this FTP gateway file transfer.
So how that solution right now might be, I will show you. It will look like. Okay, DMZ I have kept it. So this will be like this in this 3-layered solution will be there. I think you will have a API Gateway Standard Edition in the DMZ layer and API Gateway Enterprise
Okay.
Edition. And
Yeah,
these two
this is
will
the current
have,
one.
yeah. If you see these two, they will have these ports, enterprise external port and internal port. And these two will not have, it will directly connect. So that how currently your
Okay,
solution.
so yes, okay, but in the green zone now, and this is API Gateway EE, it
Yeah.
should have this configuration, right?
Yes, it should
To
have.
able to connect to the DMZ.
Correct. It should have. It
Okay,
must
it
have.
should
Yeah.
have, but it does not have. But okay, but if I go into the file transfer, the active transfer server, it has this two option: enterprise gateway server and enterprise server. That means it is applied in
Gateway
the
from
active
where you
transfer
are.
gateway and the active
Ga-
transfer server.
okay. So gateway from which UI you are looking? IS administration UI.
Yeah.
So from there you will not be able to view it. You have to go to the API Gateway UI.
Gateway on.
Yep. So in your IS server, if you can share, I think in the left hand side under solution, there will be one below something like this. Here under solution, API Gateway will be there. Just click that UI.
Yes, it is API Gateway.
Yeah, so click that. It will open a new UI. And in that you just enter it. And then in the right hand side top, administration, and then you can look into the ports. You will be able to view it.
Thank you. We have a misconfiguration here. Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah. So that is the IS what you are looking, that is the API Gateway installation. So lot of things will not
if
be there.
after you open the solution and you click the API Gateway, you move to the gateway management, right?
Gateway, right hand side
Administration.
top, administration. can share your screen.
Actually, this is different machine, but
Administration,
Hello.
then you on the left hand side you will see
Okay.
port.
Okay,
and some-
let's move, and I will check this with the team, and I feedback this again. No problem.
Sure. Okay, so I think ports we have taken. So there are few more ports. I will just explain it. So whenever we install, so there is a diagnostic port also get created. So this diagnostic port is like from my 75 number, that port threads what I have given, I will assign some threads to this. That is the maximum 5 threads I have assigned it. That means for server right now only 70 threads are available. Why we have done, why this configuration is here is like when my server, all the threads have been consumed. If anybody wants to look what is happening in the server, he can use this diagnostic port and enter to the server and view what is happening. If some threads are get hung or anything, we can just kill those threads and release. So we don't have to restart or anything. We just get inside the server, kill, remove, clear, and use that. So this is the diagnostic port, and we assigned some minimum number of threads to it. So this is one way to enter into, or there are multiple ways to enter into integration server and access our services. Another one, which I have already shown it, is a scheduler. Within server itself, I can execute my services. I can create a task. Means here just you have to give a name to the task and the service what you want to execute, with which user you want to execute it, and which server you want to execute it. If means here it is any server, means in cluster, if I have 10 instances running, so I will tell that you go and execute in any one of the servers. When we do the clustering, there is one more setting comes here, run in all the servers. Let's say some services like cleanup of my file system. It is very specific to every server. Those services needs to run in every instances. So that all servers comes in usage there. And you can point to a specific server that only instance one it should run. That is there. The schedulers also we can configure like run immediately. I can have just run once kind of thing. I can have repeating, that every frequency based, every 1 hour it should repeat and run based on the number of seconds what we have mentioned, it will repeat it. And there is a configuration like that first uh, uh, execution of my previous service has been completed, then only execute the next. Same way there are complex repeating, where I can give all the months on first of every month at 00 hour execute this service. So any reporting kind of thing, or some purging or any activities, those kind of usage it is there. So scheduler is one of the ways to invoke my services. So now we will discuss about when we are receiving an XML message in a service. So in HTTP, whenever we send an XML data or with any string variable, the XML data, it gets converted into a node or the object. And then in HTTP, it then goes to the service and it takes that object. Now, whatever services we have written till now, we have directly mentioned about the input variable string variable kind of thing. We have not processed a node or an object where these are not a serializable thing, which is in a node format, which is coming in. So XML data, whenever we received it, we received in an object or a node format. So there are few steps which we do it. I'll just show you the next slide. Also, okay, it is not in slideshow. So from any protocol or the port, we receive a XML data. We will receive in a node format. So what we have to do is we have to convert this node into a document, and then we can process it in our flow services. So there is a service in internal utility service, which is called XML node to document. We use that, convert this node into a document, and once it becomes a document, it is very easy to play with that data inside our flow services. So same thing happens, means if a request coming from HTTP, URL, FTP, or from email port. So this is how any services which we do. It is like XML node to document, document to XML string. We do it. I will just show this. So yeah, so I created a service. Means earlier itself I have created it. So whenever we expect that, we will receive a XML as an input. So we define a variable called node with an object. So you can just right click, insert an object and give a name to it. And then I have, as usual, I have defined a string XML data as my output. So first thing, what I do here is I will use this services. XML node to document. So these are the services. If you remember from yesterday, in my WM public, there are a lot of services are available. For XML, there is a specific XML folder, and we can find these services. So first thing we use is XML node to document. So it takes the node and converts into a document. Document, if you remember, this is our internal web method specific document structure. It will create it. And then what we are doing is we are just converting that document into a string and giving it XML data to debug log and logging it. Just to test this. So what I have done is I've created a REST call. Means every service, whatever we create, it can be called with our REST API. Means just an URL is there. I have given a method called post. And yesterday, as a property, service property, if you remember, there are HTTP methods you can enable. So we have enabled all the methods there. So I'm just mentioning the endpoint, my host and server, and the service name. So here again, so this is the alias name which I am using it, URL alias name. Then when I'm using a method post, So I have a body to be supplied. So I'm supplying this body and calling this. So HTTP 200 request came in. So that means, so whatever I have called it in that, it receives the XML document in the node format. And the response, if you have seen it, it is in HTML format again, because the output template is defined as HTML. We can change that HTML into a text XML. So I have used another service, that is Pubflow set response. There are multiple things which you can use it from here. Set response, which will tell you that what is the response string, and content type. I can change the content type. I have made it as an XML. Once I have enabled this, I will receive a XML response. There are other services also here, like a response code. Let's say you have customized codes, like instead of 400, 200, 504, if you want to send some customized response code, that also we can do it by using our set response code service. So now I have changed this. Just want to use why my below taskbar is not shown here. Try to. So now I have, if you see that whatever response I have got it, it is in HTML format. Here, raw format, if I see, it is the HTML format, what I have received, record name, value, record array, that kind of thing. Now I will run this again. I have changed the response type. Now it is a XML. I didn't save that. Now directly XML came in. So this is how you can play with the content type. So whenever anything is there, set response code is a response content type, we can change it. Hope you have understand that that any service which we are building where XML is my input, node is the object, how the input will come, and we have to use node to document. Then after document, you can play with it, whatever logic we can do it. I think, should we take a break? So what we will do?
Yes, yes, no problem with break for 15 minutes, no problem.
Yeah.
And then we
Can we increase the break a little bit more? I just have to finish my dinner and I will come back. 20, 25 minutes.
Okay.
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 So what I will do is I will put up a timer here. Same as yesterday, if everyone can raise their hands, and when we come back, we will just lower the hand and we will proceed with the session. Thank you. We are going on break. I'm back. We'll give a couple of minutes for people to come back. Yep. So I think we all are back. So till now, what we have covered is about the services, the ports, how we can access it, and how we get XML data into our service and how to do this. So next is how to debug our services. So let me go back to my slides. So there are multiple ways we can invoke our service. So few ones which we have already seen it, like from the browser, I can go and invoke the service. This is one way I'm invoking it. Another way is invoking via a client where I am sending a request and receiving a response. So these are from the external world, how I am sending a message and getting a response and then do a debug. But if I have to manually debug the code, so what all ways we have? So let's say I will use this add numbers service if I want to debug it. So till now what we are running is run as flow service. Now if I want to use debug flow service, so what it gives me, if I run that, okay, it will switch to a debug mode. The overall things will change. It will tell me that where my current execution is. I have provided the input and it is at the first step. And in first step, these are my input variables. Now I need to go to next step. So we have step over. I can move. So it has done the addition. That is the value here. And why other variables are not shown? Because I have dropped it. So that is the reason it is not invisible. Then if I complete this, it will give me the results. So that is how the debug mode works. So this is step over, then step into. Step into means if I have a complex service under which there are a lot of steps has been written, I can get inside that service and look into it. I think look into it. There is one service I think I had. Can go to service development. So this is my one another service under which I am calling the first service. So if I debug this service, so there was no input, so it didn't came into that, and directly the first step it is now step into icon has got enabled where I can get inside that step. Now from here I can again step over each thing. If you see that the cursor is moving and the map has happened and it came to the next sequence, and it went. So this is the way I can trace how my code is behaving. But in this case, where there is a input, which is an object I cannot provide it in the normal run thing. So if I just run this service, using XML is not supported in debug mode. So that is how the error will come out. But still, if I want to do this, debug this service, what I have to do is I have to go debug as debug configuration. So if you click there, I can select a name, then a service which I want to debug it, provide an input to it. So use the use XML so that it internally converts this XML into node and map it. So to get this XML, you can browse, get it from the file system and do it. Now, if you do the debug, came here. Sorry, this was already running. So I will just close this all debug. So yep. Now it came where it is showing that there is a node which is there. It has received it. Now if I step over, it has converted that node into a document. Whatever I have supplied there in the debug configuration, so it will show it here. And then you can start debugging your service. It will move forward, it will write in there, and you can debug it and close. Debug is there. So this is a debug view. To go back to your service development, you have to again go back to your service development where you can see your packages, package navigator. So
There is a debugging on in the server, like the production server. Are we able to do this without affecting the running services, or it will stop the service?
you want to debug the service in the production?
If this is if we are able to do this, or it will stop all instance of the service and it stop any request coming to the service.
Yeah, while debugging, it will not stop any requests. So, okay, so in production environment, if you have access, so that means if you have the credentials to connect.
Yeah, suppose that it is
Yeah,
enabled,
it is
and are we able to connect to the server? Are we able to do this without stopping? Yani I do a breakpoint inside the sequences or on any step, and still investigating the data. Any request coming while I'm doing this debug, it will stop. It will really use other instance of the service, or
No,
any hitting of this service, it will interrupt it in my debug.
no, it will not interrupt your current execution. Unless you change the code, it will not interrupt. It will be running separately. So this is Designer, which is another client which is connecting to your IIS server, and it is running that. If you change the code, it is directly getting applied there.
Okay.
So that is it. So there are few other steps which I will tell, which will impact things. So here REST normal URL browser, and we have seen how to debug the services. So multiple debug configurations, you can configure it and save it and use it. But debug configuration can only be used in a debug mode, not in a run mode. So this is giving you how to configure. That is what I have shown it. This one also we have seen it since yesterday. We are directly from browser, we are invoking it. So when from browser, it is always a get call. Yep. So debugging your code. So there are multiple things in debugging. One is when you're testing your code. Another thing is you want to check dependencies, which all the service what you are touching it, which all places it has a dependency, where it has been used and where it has been called from. So there is find dependence and find references. So if you go, so you can just right click on any service and do a find dependence kind of thing. It is not being used. So now I will see find references. Yes, this has been called. This service is calling these many services. So if I do a doc part confirmation, that is dependent on mapping service. Mapping service has a reference of these assets. So that is one step to find out any impact analysis if you want to do it. Like let's say if you want to change a service, which all places it will impact. So this is one is the easiest way to find the dependence and find the reference and see what is the impact it will make it. There are some steps around save and restore, which will come later. There is a breakpoint call, which we can use it. Stray step into this, what we have seen it, how to debug it. Enable disable code. Whenever needed, we can enable and disable, but these are permanent changes. When you are doing it in the server, enable, disable, those will impact your current execution of services because you are touching the code at that time. And breakpoints and those things are per session. So it doesn't, for that session, it is only impacting. Now, another thing which we have looked is auditing. Like you enable the auditing and see the data, how it is. One more thing here, when we do the auditing, it will also show us how much time that service has taken to get executed. So that is also a useful. So duration, how much time it is taking. So any performance testing or anything which you are doing it with auditing is enabled, we'll get to know that each service, how much time it is taking. Anything which is taking more time, then we can find out that that has some issues related to it. So this is one way to find it out. Other ways are like, as I have told, AppDynamics, Dynatrace kind of tools, which third-party tools are available, where they can intercept every service, and they also show this information in a graphical manner. This auditing we have seen, resubmit. We have already seen that. Node processing, as I have told, object, we cannot give it via load or include pipeline. It has to be done either via debug configuration or through the external clients like REST, means SOAP UI or browser based, we can use it. This is again speaking about the debug configuration. I'm just glancing it through because we have covered these things. I have shown it. If you have anything, I can show it again. Just stop me if you see that something I have not shown it. One more thing which is there is, without changing the code, I want to save the pipeline and restore it and debug it. Let's say I'll take this add number. So there is a property pipeline debug. So what you can do is just do a save. Once it is saved, so it is making a change in the server. So this will always save the pipeline, but it will overwrite the pipeline. So it is always in the disk or in the server. It is only one file it is saving it, which we can use it for debugging. So let's say in production, I have saved this file and I call it, that is the add number from my browser. Give some unique number like 455. And I call that number and this has been called. So once I have done that, I'll come back to this service. This is being called. I will change it to restore. Again, caution, if you make it restore, it will always run the saved pipeline. I'll just run it. So whatever input I give it here doesn't matter. So it will take whatever has been saved in the earlier execution. So 4.55 was the earlier execution. So I have given some other number that it doesn't matter. And now I can debug it from here. But this is a permanent change which is happening in the server. And if whatever now I call it, let's say browser, if I go 4.55 was the thing now and 6.55 was the result. Even if I change it, results remains the same because it is only taking the inputs which has been kept in that saved in there. So this is something dangerous to do it in production. So we always do this. Let's say some problem has happened in production. We enable the save pipeline, get that pipeline saved in the production, take that file, bring it to the non-prod environment and use that pipeline to debug in the test environment. So that is the next step. I will show you how to do that. So I will just bring it back to the original state. Okay, this will not show here. No. So this is one way. Another is there are few services which we can use it. Save pipeline. Then save pipeline to file. I'll just explain these two. Save pipeline, we have to give a name, and it will store the data in the memory of the server. And I can use, similarly, there is a restore pipeline. Give the same name, it will restore it, and we can start doing the debug. So here we are touching the code where we are putting another logic like save pipeline. First time it will enable, then second time we will disable the save pipeline and use the restore pipeline to restore it from there. So it is helpful in the places where object or node kind of data is coming as an input. So there what will happen is it is able to save it in the memory. When I'm using save pipeline to a file, it take the pipeline and put it into a file. The moment we get into writing into a file, XML or object type of data or non-serialized things will not get written into a file. So that is why there are two things which has been given for the debug. One is when the inputs are object type, we can use the save pipeline. When there are normal data types, we can use save pipeline to file. There is
Okay.
another.
This pipeline, it is shared between services or it is inside only one flow service? And if
So,
I
okay.
save the pipeline and I try to read the pipeline from different service, it will read it or it will not find it?
Okay. So when you are putting save pipeline to a file, you are giving a file name. And when you are restoring it, where is this? You are again giving a
Yeah.
file name. So if I give the same file name in other service, you will be able to retrieve it because it stores the data.
Right. But about
In
the memory one, it is related to the sync in the context of the service, or it is global?
that is also you can retrieve it from anywhere because it is also based on a name.
Okay, so it can be used to share information between two services.
Yes.
Okay.
So because it is like I will show you the place where it saves the pipeline. This is the folder. So it is at an instance level and in a common place it is being saved. Now I can restore this pipeline from any service. I have to just give the same name to it and I can restore it. It will only fail if your input signature and this signature doesn't match. At that time it will fail. But if your service signatures are same, you can just reuse this pipelines. So that is what I'm telling. In production, we never do any restore. So we always capture the data in production by saving the pipeline, get these files to our non-prod environment, and there we do the debug. So that means it is getting used in some other service.
Okay.
So means when we are enabling this save pipeline means a lot of times happens like developers are coding and they would have kept the save pipeline by default, either this property or save pipeline. So there is a server level extended settings which I have shown earlier. You just make it that as a false. Whatever you do the save, it will not save any files in production because it is a memory centric. If somebody has written a code like save pipeline to a file with a unique ID, let's say some order ID it has been given in the name itself. I can put this ID as a dynamic value. Every time every request comes, it creates a new file and start keeping that in the file system. That will increase the load. So there is a setting given at a server level, which we can put it in the server to not to save pipeline. And when we have to do it intentionally, we go there, make it true, then save will start happening. And it will also, like if you are not aware which all services have saved and cleanup has not happened. So in that time, this setting is useful. Same, the difference means save pipeline that cannot save the non-serializable types, but in memory one, we can save the serializable types. Another for XML thing means XML node I have explained, like save pipeline to file will not work. If you are putting that in the code, if we are putting that into the code, it has to be after the node to document step, XML node to document, then only save pipeline to file will work. So save and restore pipeline to work. If it has been the first step of the service, it will not work. But same when normal save pipeline, restore pipeline will work. So this is the method which is telling that you go first time, change the code, have save pipeline to file, and then disable, then enable those things which you have to do it manually to do the debugging. Few services which I have spoken about, debug log, which we are seeing it. These are the messages which we want to write it into the server log. These are our custom messages we want to write it. Trace pipeline will, whole pipeline will be written into the server log. So this is also one of the means while debugging it is very useful, but this service we should have a check, like it should never go to production. Otherwise your server logs will increase like anything. Then in production, the logging level which I have shown, we should always keep it at fatal or error level, not at below info and all, because unnecessarily the server log is getting size will get increased and it will take space in production. So these are few things which we should be aware, or if we are using these services for debugging, keep in mind, remove it before checking in and then for deploying it to the next level of the environment. Now, I think till now, any questions? Okay. So now whatever things what we have seen is the service is getting invoked via a URL, whatever browser or from SOAP UI also, I have just invoked it via a URL kind of thing. But REST comes with its more guidelines or methods which we can use it. Then how to create a REST service. So we will now get into our REST service topic. So here we will understand what is REST is all about, how to configure our REST resources, and how we implement these services. So there will be two ways which we will look into it: service first approach and a contract first, means where the Swagger file is already available, that approach. How to implement in those two format. So hope everyone is aware of REST. What is REST is all about. It is just an architectural style which works on top of HTTP HTTPS protocol. Main difference between the SOAP or SOAP and REST is SOAP focuses on service. REST focus on a resource or mostly a data entity kind of thing. So whenever we are building REST services, we define our resource first, like a student, employee, so data-driven, data-specific resources. But if you see in web service world, it will be mostly like create employee, create student, something like that. So those are service driven where it is given. In REST, mostly we use our HTTP methods like get, put, post, patch, delete to use that and expose the services. So the same thing, REST is more data centric than SOAP. It is lightweight. Lightweight just in a sense like SOAP has a special contract which goes with the ACID compliance, where atomicity, those things are taken contract, fixed structure is needed. Here, that is not there. Mostly we use a URL with the HTTP method. All the HTTP method like get, post, put, patch, delete are supported in integration server. So there are two ways REST services will be there. One is provider and one is consumer. Provider means when we have a service, when we have developed one service and we want to expose that to outer world to consume it. So that is where we became the provider of the service or owner of the service who wants to provide this to the outside world. Another is the REST consumer, where we consume some third-party REST services. So REST provider, where we will build our service resources and everything expose. REST consumer, there is a service called pub.client. I'll just show that. So again, in WM public, under client, there is a HTTP call service. Here, any HTTP call you want to make it, just use this service from your flow service and then you can use it. So consumer service is very easy, means it is just we have to use this HTTP and consume a REST service, nothing else. Now, when we want to develop our own service. So it is better, I will go here. First, we will go through code first and then creating a REST resource out of it. So I've already built it, or I will let me. So what I will do is I will create some services. Let's say get employee, where I don't need anything. There is no input. I will define it should be called immediately, or I have these services being already been created. So I will just show you this. So get employee, what I have done is I have just created that. There is no input output. And I have just set the response that this is a get call received. So when I'm using my SOAP UI, I will so that I can recognize where that call has been made. And I have used the same service to set the content type. So it should respond back in a XML format. Same way I have created delete employee. Here also I have kept one input as ID and given response string and the content type. And I have also created a post employee. These names, you can keep it anything. We can refer it later. So post means there will be some XML document which will be coming in and which we want to process it. So once you have created these services, then you can, I'll just show you here. Create a REST resource. It's a given name employee just employee and press next. You can create an empty resource or a document base based on the input. So for now, I will create as an empty resource and then map all the things inside it. So once I have created this get employee resource, I will just go ahead and add URL kind of thing, and which URL should call which service. So it will mostly look like this. So let's say my URL is employee data and the combination is get. When this combination comes in the request, call my get employee service. Now next combination what I have given is delete as a HTTP method and employee and a parameter with ID if it is being called, then call my delete employee. Same way for post, same ID, and I have with the post method, it will call an post employee. So once you have created this, then you can, that is the resource being created. Next is you need to create a REST API descriptor. So you can give anything here, MP data. I will keep it as Swagger and I'm making it as a provider and then use existing REST resource. So once you go here, you can give any name to it. And this is the base path. So this is, you can keep it as is, but this URL if you need it, or you can give any base path here. So what it will do is it will go and create a URL alias in the backend. Then you can tell that, okay, I need input as an XML format, and I will also respond back in XML format. Same thing, you can JSON and anything, you can choose it. Then you just go and see which resource is available and you can create it. If I press finish, it will not create this because I have not defined any URL template for this new one. So it will throw an error. Failed to create the because no URL or any method has been not defined. So here I have already created it. So this is how this looks like. So once this has been created, now you can go check the REST resources, whatever is available. It is available here with the employee data get and the parameter and responses. Another URL which we have used, which supports 2 HTTP methods. Definitions means if we have used any document types, like in post we have used it. So those document types, it will show it that these are the types being used. And once this has been created, I have a Swagger file been generated. So this is that easy, means from services, you have linked in the resource how these services should be called. That is the combination of your HTTP method and the URL. Both combination tells us that which service needs to be called. Once resource has been created, we create a descriptor where we tell what is the resource to be used, what is the base path, and what is the mechanism, like Swagger file we need it, we can use it. So this is the whole process how REST is being called, and now you can consume it via a SOAP UI. You have to just go and create a new SOAP project, give employee data as your that URL as that, and you can send a request. So here I'll start with get call, where it was only till employee data needs to be used. REST v2 is the directive which gets added. We can remove this by in URL aliases also. We can keep only employee data. We can make that happen. So if I make a call, it gets inside my get service. Now whatever you have, you can write a logic how you want to retrieve the data, from where you want to retrieve the data, and send it back. Next combination was delete and with some parameter. So I will just call this. So it went under the delete service. Another combination was post and with a parameter. Now it went under post call. So every time when you are sending it, delete and post has a body where you can send the body whatever XML data you want to send it, and it will be received in the service. One thing which you noted, like we have built this services post and delete. I will just explain that. So what will happen is, as XML data is coming inside, I need to write a logic of XML XML node to document. That logic needs to be written. If somebody sends a JSON data, then this XML node to document will not work. So there is a logic which has been given here. So I will just go through every step. I have covered it. This mapping I have shown. You map it. Then how to map a document type. Okay, so this is the logic which I was speaking of. Yeah. So let's say you have a service where you can receive the incoming request in a XML format, you can receive in a JSON format. So what happens is we create the service. Under that, we put a branch. If node is not equal to null, that means node is coming, indicates that XML data has came in. So we first do a XML node to document and process accordingly. If there is a document came in, that means JSON message has came in. So we can use JSON message and process it and take it forward. Underscore generate input, I will show you this comes in when we have done contract first implementation. So with that generated input document, if it comes in, and it will, then we can convert that into a actual document and work on top of it. So this is how in integration server we are handling. So that means in code we are handling the logic of transport layer, means whatever the different types of protocols we have, we are writing them. That is the reason we have now API gateway. So means without API gateway also we can write a service here to handle accept any kind of messages. But now in API gateway, this is a policy based. So there you can configure policies, or you can convert any SOAP APIs into a REST API into a SOAP API with the configurations. So we don't have to write these kind of logic. So developer can only focus on writing the actual business logic. Then API gateway takes cares of it. But still, I just wanted to show you that if API gateway is not there, if somebody has to write it and it needs to be exposed with any type of incoming message, be it XML, JSON, or a document type, it can be written in this way. So that is the step, and I just wanted to show Swagger or the contract first approach. So let's say
after we generating the REST descriptive from the current REST resource, are we able, after we modify any, are we able to modify in the Swagger document or any component inside this descriptive, and it will reflect back to the resource or whatever the service, or just read only? After generating, we have to change back to the service and regenerate or update the descriptive again to reflect the changes in the service flow and the inputs.
So, okay. So if I have generated this descriptor, now I want to change something in resource. Let's say I want to add one more.
Yeah.
So their descriptor
need more or modifying or anything. Yes.
Yeah. So then descriptor, let me try that out. I have. And let's say patch. Service name, I will. Okay, so service name cannot repeat. I need to create one more.
Okay, we are not able to provide the same flow to different, like I need the same endpoint or the same flow using a get and post, and it will handle both input from URL or from the.
That can.
It should
that
be.
can
It should be. It should be allowed, right?
It is. possible. Let's say if I just want to add a patch here. So both are added. So okay, so with this itself, I can reuse it. I just want to see my Swagger file. No, I think it has delete, post, get. And do I have a refresh option? Yep. Okay. So the refresh itself has taken it. So patch also came in the Swagger.
Okay, type. Am I able to change in the Swagger directly and it will reflect direct to the resource, or it is not
No,
applicable? It's not
that
applicable.
is
Only
that
read
way
only.
it will. Yeah, it will not. So
Yeah.
from here backward will not go. So first resource
Okay.
and then descriptor.
Okay.
Okay. And let's say
Like,
this.
can you show us the mapping for the rest? How you do this mapping for the inputs?
Okay. So so this is how the mapping is. So HTTP method and the URL.
Yeah, I'm talking about the parameters or the payload for this request. How can we map it between the input from the URL and the parameter in the workflow? It will be automatically the same name, but if we have different names or
Now the parameter name and the input variable name, we only decide it and we keep it, we have to keep it same. So ID, if I have defined it, in resource, I have to give only that ID.
okay.
So that is how it will be. So even if you take a Swagger and if we import it, based on the parameters what we have defined, it will also put, it will create automatically these services and it will give the input as ID.
Okay, but sometimes we need to add a query parameters and or a payload for the post as an input document.
Yep.
How
So
can map this?
a payload means here it is like I have given with the parameter and the patch, and I have also passed a payload here as a body.
Yes, but this is manual processing related to the XML document. How we can map this is through if the post is the data throwing the you mentioned that you have two options. The data is coming as XML in the node, and the other JSON it will be received in the document or the
Correct.
Yes, document.
Yeah. So it will be a document. So if you view that, so it is as a, this is the code it will be looking like. So if I now consume a Swagger file and create the services, you will see that generated input. That is the generic name comes for that, for a document. And under that, if you send a JSON file, it will take it from there. Let me.
Okay, how this JSON file, all property it will map to the document there is any mapping manual mapping between this document and the object it's defined as input instance and the
So it just
the flow.
So it just convert the JSON document into a generic document. And from there, when we have to do it, we should already be having a document type defined in our system where we can use it, like let's say, let me do this. From a Swagger document. Okay, employee alias, I think it is already there. It is not able to create it, but once I import this Swagger file, so this resource has been created here, employee data. And apart from that, whatever document types has been defined, so those documents are also been created. Now, if any JSON data comes in, I can just map to this and start processing in my services.
Okay, this is the second part, the contract first, right?
Yes. These are the automatically created based on the Swagger file. It has created these services and this contract types. So if I just see employee thing, ID has been created. The post, this is the document type which has been already automatically it has added it. Based on the Swagger file.
Okay.
Now means if once it is added here, it is easily we can just use it in any whatever step we want to write it. This document type is already available for us. So this is the when we have a contract first approach, we get there. Means in our service first, you will see the service names little bit developer friendly. When it is Swagger, it is whatever has been defined in Swagger that will come here, and it will be with the HTTP method type.
Okay, is there any built-in tool inside the designer or the integration? We are able to create the contract even XML or WSDL or JSON or with this Swagger or OpenAPI specification. It is not supported in the designer or the platform, right?
In designer, Swagger file means it is code first approach only, then Swagger is coming. So there is nothing like a tool which we can directly use it and do it. So we configure and then it generates the Swagger file. So
Okay.
it is
for
not
for
in
the
that
WSDL web services, XML
No.
services, also no.
No, it is like we define services, then right click, create a web service descriptor. Exactly the same process what I have done, only names are changing there. Like web service descriptor. Once that is created, like how here descriptor has been created and it generated a Swagger file, there it will generate a WSDL file.
Okay,
But
for
nothing
the end
specific.
user, he can see this Swagger information.
End user, no, we have to share it. So we can copy this, put it in a file and share it to them. Or
Okay.
or another
From the
way,
gateway, it is
gateway
available.
it is available.
Gateway. Okay.
Yeah, so gateway we have like we give this Swagger file or a REST URL to gateway. Gateway configure this, and there is a with API a lot of documentation. Whatever you can put it, those things. Swagger definition, it generates a set of assets which will be shared with the consumers.
Okay. Can you switch back to this security definitions inside this tab?
So it is when you choose the HTTPS
Okay.
control, we have only two security definition here, basic auth and OAuth, which we can configure. But mostly this is not means currently we are not using in the IS layer. We are using this in the API gateway layer.
Yes, I'm just wondering before the API gateway and how the user or how the enterprise providing services using the ESB only as integration server only. If they have ESB only and there is no gateway or API portal, what is the exact security models they should provide to the consumer? Basic
Okay.
authentication. And even for both يعني web REST or SOAP. And where is the repository for this user inside the product?
Okay, so when I spoke about the user management,
Yes, you mentioned yesterday ACL
Yeah.
control and there is rules and groups.
correct. Is security, I think.
Yes.
So this is where we can configure users first. So
This is the user of the application or the or the consumer. يعني both of them are considered part of this user management.
yes, so okay, so here there are two. One is local user. That means in this integration server, I can create some local users.
Okay.
And that can be used means when you create a username password, that is a local. Another way of I can configure central user management. This central user management means in MWS. So MWS, I have a user management. So this user. Here again, I will create the users, which is again a means application user. So local user means that is very specific to that integration server. Now multiple integration servers are connecting to my web method server. I can create one user here and give access to all the 10 instances. But still, it is a application level user where we are managing it. That is again still application owns the user. Third way is in MWS, I can connect to directory services, Active Directories.
Okay, but this is still also internal users. But what about the consumer outside the organization?
So those are right now there are two ways which we can look into. Either we have to have a OAuth configuration where they will come to our API portal, get client ID secret, and then register themselves and access the system. That is one way. Second is certification, certificate wise. We will not provide any basic username there. We will provide certificates, so they can access our server
So
via
this is the only way to provide service to client or the consumer outside the organization to using a
outside
certificate or
OAuth.
also it depends actually on the
OAuth is again
the
username.
service.
Means OAuth they mostly use when our authorization server is exposed to them, and they can register themselves and they will use it. So mostly that they have to go through that process.
Okay.
Certificate is the easiest way
Are
where
we
we can just
able to enable two model of user management related to Active Directory and system users at the same time?
I can configure multiple Active Directories here. System
Okay.
both we can do it. So only thing we have to just change the search order based on should I go with system first or first with Active Directory. We have to decide.
Okay. This product can be able to configured with Active for login with EDF Federation, like
Single sign-on kind of.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think there is single sign-on configuration is there. I can. So I can find you that single sign-on because I have just seen. Means it is possible to have a single sign-on.
Okay.
And means ESB, our integration server also have OAuth configuration. It is just means how it works in API gateway. Same way we can run our integration server, authorization server, and use it, or it can connect to any other authorization server, and we can use that.
Okay.
Yep. I think that's it for today. A lot of things we have covered. Any questions or anything? So mostly,
Yes, Mr.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Kar. Okay, when we have external consumers on our API, so the SEL will be in the same ESP, or it will be in the API gateway. I mean the authorization or LDAP.
Okay, so it will be in API. If your flow, okay, I will go to. Yeah. So if this is the flow, top to bottom, if your consumers are coming from outside world, so in DMZ layer we only do authentication, not full authentication. It is just to check threat protection kind of thing, IP filtering, DDoS attacks, those kind of thing. API gateway we use to authenticate and authorize. Both it can do it. And integration server is totally used for business logic. So actual service is here. Security has been given to gateway. And then gateway has divided that threat protection will be taken care by standard edition, and mediation, authentication, authorization, that kind of thing will be taken care by enterprise edition. So if we have this set of products, now you remove one product, and then other product has to take that responsibility and do it.
Okay, so the LDAP will be on the API gateway.
API gateway.
Okay. I have another question regarding the connectivity, network connectivity between the IS servers and the telnet, how we can telnet the connectivity between them internally or externally. it will be in tomorrow's session or today we can see how
Telnet,
it's going on.
no, Telnet for what purpose you want to see
To check
it?
to check the connectivity, network connectivity, and the port if it's opened or not.
Yeah, that is same way for any application. We do like a port, means whatever ports we have configured and the host name. So that is only we check it. Right, that
Okay.
port, we don't, if you want to check that is integration server is running or not, you have to come via URL to check that service. But when you check port is opened from that server or not, then only you do a telnet, right?
Okay, but you know, like Data Power and other tools have like a features inside their platform, even not related to the ports of the product, but may telnet or reachability for the remote resources, remote APIs to validate for if there is reachability for this endpoint or not.
Yeah. So
Uh,
those are HTTP calls. Like a ping call, we have
Yeah.
in API gateway, there is a ping API, which by default comes in.
But
Which they
this is
can,
in a gateway, but the actual consuming of the service, it will be through the integration server, right?
yeah, means ping
So
service.
again, let me say something. If we have an external API outside the organization and need to provide this API to internal application, okay?
Okay.
We will create a connection between the integration server and this external API, or creating this connection between the gateway and this API.
We can do both ways. Means, as I have said, if there is no transformation, you don't have to come to integration server. You can directly configure that API in the API gateway. That is the green zone, what I'm showing it here. And its virtual API can be shared with internal consumers.
Or reprovide this through different. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, because it is
It
just
depends.
API to API. If there are transformation, we will configure an integration server. Integration server will connect via proxy to that external API. And whatever service we have built in integration server, we will expose that to API gateway, and then
Yeah.
API gateway, API virtual API will be consumed by internal applications.
Yeah.
So I'm stressing on the point to bringing another product in the overall flow. So integration server should come only when there are complex transformation or complex business logic needs to be done. Because it will, that many hops will happen. It will, network latency will come into picture. So wherever not needed, we can directly connect with API gateway.
I can say that, but I don't know. The gateway can do a transformation related to the. It cannot handle all orchestration stuff, right? If there is any orchestration or any composition, it should be from the integration.
Then
From
integration
the
server.
ESP,
So
yes.
that is the orchestration. When I'm talking, it is business logic. If there are multiple calls, if you have, then
And
integration server.
also transformation. Transformation considered one of the business could be for we can apply it from the gateway, or we do it in the integration server.
So two types of transformation. If
No, I
there is
am
only,
structure
I'm just,
or restructure the data, not just from XML to JSON or
another.
from JSON to XML.
So let's say XML to XML, but only names are changing. Let's say tag names are changing. That still can be done in API gateway. But if it is a bigger change, means let's say I have to change the value format itself. A lot of those kind of transformation we are bringing in, adding some data and then integration server. If it is only a structural changes, be it XML to XML or XML to JSON, then API gateway. If we are touching value, then ESB. Hope I have answered that. Means value means if I am touching the business data and formatting that and converting into something else.
Okay, clear.
Yep. And hope I have answered the ping related. Means there are ping APIs available, but that is HTTP pings.
Okay, so there is no telnet command because I think some there is in some agencies there is some constraints regarding the ping command. So they use telnet command to check the connectivity with port. So regarding this, we can use the HTTP core, right?
HTTP we can do it, and for let's say there is a WebSocket connectivity if they are making it. So once we have configured WebSocket port, they can ping that also. That can be telnet.
Okay.
So anyway in the server, our primary port is open and that will be open. If they do a telnet, okay. If it is external system, they have to do a telnet to the load balancer, and then has to connect to API gateway. So which connectivity they want to see it? That also needs to be identified, because my first application which is there for them is the load balancer, then API gateway, then
Yes, this will be any part of the from incoming traffic. It will be part of the network activity, but from using external to just confirm that we have able to reach to the remote servers. Yes, I think yes, it's two different.
okay. Any other question, or if not, then we can close for the day.
Yes, maybe this is from the beginning of the session regarding this make the my website server my web method server see the logs from the integration server. Actually, if you open your web my web method with my web method server and in the tab of the system setting, and you will see servers. I saw that it is only showing the BPM server. Go to yes, my web server up. Not up. Use this is active transfer already selected. Downside. Go to
Okay, so here servers, right?
yes, this one. Yeah.
Okay, so it is a name I can give anything.
This
So
is the only BPM. So how this is mean there is no configuration to the integration server here?
No, this is a integration server. So name, it is a custom name. Some it is like it has been typed as BPM there, but it is a integration. It is a custom name which we use it.
Because it is from my side also. It is named the BPM, and I have another one referred to the integration server. But actually, it is not working. But I will validate this with the admin.
Yeah. So it is okay by default. You
because
see
I cannot
three
see the
configuration.
I cannot see the same logs as you see because this missed the configuration here, or this server is not up from my side. So I just get confused when I saw one server only here. It is named BPM. Also, I already have it, and a different server related to the integration server.
Yep.
So I get confused in this.
So both the things you will see that it will be pointing to the same host and port. So host and ports are important where we are connecting. So these are our custom names which we can give anything. So we just name it as like IS. Okay, from architectural type of thing means I will just show that diagram. This integration server can host our ESB. It can host BPM. It can host TN. It can host active transfer server. Now, when we decide get into solutioning, we mostly segregate these things. So we dedicate each IS for each type of activities. Let's say it is a BPM kind of there are processes. We assign one integration server and have only BPM running there. We will not have any integration batch transactions, real-time transaction running there because BPM takes its own type of resources and we combine it there. Same way with TN we do it, and same way with active transfer server, and we keep servers separate. But if you see from MWS perspective, it only it is connecting to integration server. We have to name it as like logically we have defined that as a BPM or a ESB. Active transfer setup separately there has been given in our things because it has a active transfer gateway. So that is the reason there are means setup configurations has been given here. And same way for TN connects to a database. So we need to connect to here also. If you see that host name and port are exactly the same as integration server. TN also it will come as same. Same host it is connecting. So it is a logical division we have to make it. Technically, it is same integration server running. One more thing means only packages gets added and gets there. So if we have WMTN means this trading networks is installed here. We can use this server as a trading network. WMFT means WMFT, we can use it. Means possibility is there, we can use it. Only logically we divide it based on load and those kind of things.
So also maybe in operation sessions, maybe we can see how to enable these packages if it is not predefined in the set is installation, because maybe it is a deployer and also a different monitor. Maybe it is not defined by the default or didn't set up from the beginning, and we need to configure. We need to have a look how we enable this features later in the product.
Good. So that is the command central which I have showed earlier. That can means I think the project team would have done it already. So we would have referred to a repository based on the license thing. It will show all the products what you have assigned to. Then in installation, it will show what is being installed. Sorry, and go back. Installation. If I click here, products, it will show what all things has been installed. And when I do a comparison with my repository, it will show what all things are missing. If things are missing, then I have to just right click, install, then it will install it.
Again, where you got this screen?
This is a command central.
Okay.
So for
And-
any installation kind of activities. So
Okay.
deployment is different, installation is different. Installation is installing our product from the images provided by Software AG.
Okay, after you open the command central, you go into the
Yep.
product repository, use IC products.
So
Fine.
installation, first tab at the top, if you click it,
Okay.
it has instances
In
and
instances,
installations.
installations. Okay.
Under installation, you can click into any one of the servers, so that is there, and check the products what has been installed.
Okay.
And more importantly, for operations, it will come at a later point of time. Fixes, what kind of fixes has been there? Because right now it will be initial stage and later point of time. If let's say some bug come, product will provide you a fix. You would have installed it in one environment, not in another environment. So the feature of comparison comes into picture. So where we can compare two environments, what fixes are there and what is the difference.
Okay, that means this command central should be connected for all. Yeah, it should be connected all instance, staging, all environment, staging and production.
Correct. So means there again, few things we need to consider. Like in an enterprise, from a non-prod environment, is connectivity allowed to production or not?
Yes,
Let's
this is
say
yes, this is an issue. We don't
Yeah.
have this connectivity. Yes.
correct. So in that stage, what happens is non-prod command central cannot connect to production, and we cannot compare. Then we look for second option is to have the command central in the production layer, and from there we connect to our non-prod environment. But in some enterprises, that is also not allowed.
Yeah, it is not allowed.
Yeah. So in that case, we go with two command centers. One is non-prod command central and one is production command central.
Okay. Right. Okay, we are done today for this training session.
Sure.
What is the next about that implement the development in this plan? We have now today's in this
So-
agenda.
Yeah. The next is our web services and JDBC adapter. So that is tomorrow's. Then messaging, PubSub, JMS,
Okay.
triggers, and caching.
Okay, so maybe before we go into this, I don't know which one it will be more. It will take more time, so we can manage. You can introduce how we can check our the project we create or the package we create based on the source, the resources file. How can import project, how we can exchange a project through the source control. Maybe it will be helpful for us in this stage because we are developing inside the integration directly, and we need to share this code with between the team. If you are able to include this part to navigate the resources created in this server explorer, and which it is posted as a package inside the instance, and how we can exchange or how we can export and importing this information, this projects again, it will be better. Also, if we are able to touch the Java code and the plugins, it will be also very good.
Sure. So let me try that. It is mostly from a local workstation, how multiple developers can work together, keeping Git repository as the central location. Means where my actual code is there, how to check in, check out, work together. Okay.
Yes,
Let
we
me
are
try
not
out.
intended to. Yani, we already have a get and the get and commands. We are aware about this, but the problem here how the designer deal with this change inside the repo. We don't know. Okay, yani this is not talking about the get itself. We are able to get push and every the all commands related to the get, but the connectivity between the source itself and the what happened inside the source service navigation the package inside the browser, the service browser, and what happened in the file system. What we need to understand what happened actually after. Yani if we set change any change in any step and the save that it will resubmit to the server. What happens actually to the source inside the get local, and we can manage this in the remote, no problem. But the problem here in how we will manage this, how we can export the project from the Git and import it to the project and our designer.
In the
and
designer
back to-
itself, how
yeah,
to control the whole life cycle.
right.
Get the package, work on it, and then push it back. And some other developer should now get the latest one.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, let me try out that. So I can divide that into 2 days kind of thing. First day, I can show you if I'm able to do or some screenshots. And then if time permits, I can have some demo around it so that full life cycle I can show there.
Okay.
Let me try.
Yes, okay. And also, kindly, we need to share this presentation as well as the samples you showed us in the system.
Correct. So I think Natarajan has spoken with me on that. So I've told once means everything is done, I will hand over to him and he will work with you on that. So means it is like I have to give it to him. Means any documentation and anything Natarajan and Yusuf I am providing.
Yes, yes. As we are talking about the resources related to the courses that we need. Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
Very appreciate your patience. Okay.
Yeah. No issues.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So we will close for the day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.